good. Okay, thanks, Lee. So, Randa, hello. You ask in the Indian scriptures, there is a lot about the purification of the mind. Please comment. Okay, Randa, so there are various teachings, various means, various methodologies that are appropriate at different points in time in your contemplation. And the purification of the mind is one of those phases of one of those forms of practice that may be relevant or significant to a truth lover at some point in their life. There are different teachings that different messages, but the truth is one. The goal, if we can use that term, is one, which is the revelation, the full revelation of the self. But not everybody, there isn't one message that applies for everybody. There are various different messages, there are various different teachings that apply to the truth lovers at different points in their contemplation. So a good representation of that is, I don't know if you're familiar with in the Zen tradition, the Zen Buddhist tradition, they refer to the 10 ox herding pictures, which are one representation where they have 10 steps or 10 phases that describe the path. And one of the path is I think it is before you ride the bull, it is holding the bull or the ox by the ring in the nose of the bull, of the ox. You're holding the ox. So the purification of the mind is a practice where you keep bringing the mind out of the personal concerns, out of the personal judgment, out of the personal comparisons. You bring the mind out of that to the higher ground. The higher ground, of course, being the openness of being, the contemplation of the self, the communal, the experience of the oneness, of our oneness. So you invite the mind, whenever you notice the mind going to regrets or judgments or all the negative emotions, the me thoughts, whenever you notice that, you bring the mind out, you pull the mind out from that type of thinking, meaning you do not continue with that type of thinking. You let go of that type of thinking by contemplating that what you truly are, or by is a divine self, or by recalling the divine reality, which has to be a part of your experience. So there is at some point or the other, you've had some experience that took you beyond the person, beyond you. You sort of had an insight into a peace, into a reality, into a truth that transcends the person. And there is a recollection of that. So the purification of the mind, there are various practices, various means, various methods, but the main thrust of the purification of the mind is to, rather than pursuing the me thought and all the feelings and emotions, you recollect the wholeness of being. Now, there are various practices in different traditions. Some people do all sorts of japas, they do all sorts of meditations, offerings, burning incense, chanting. There are various means, and they resonate to different people in different ways, that you find yourself drawn to it, and that would be your tool or your means by which you purify the mind. So if you have any other questions about that, I think for now that's what I have to say about the purification of the mind. This practice, again, is a means by which the mind can be weakened. When I say the mind, meaning the me tendency, can be weakened, and the recollection of God, the recollection of truth, the recollection of the divine can be strengthened. Ranta, you're right. It seems that those practices give you a state of mind that ends after a while. Well, in their purest form, these practices are meant to bring you closer to God, bring you closer to truth, meaning they are meant to dissolve the habitual tendency to perceive through the me filter, through the personal identification, filtration. It's not, these practices are not meant to attain another state of mind. So if they are used to attain another state of mind, there still is a personal interest. There is still a personal agenda. These practices are meant to weaken the me tendencies, to weaken the grip of the personal thought. And it's not about attaining a different state. So if you are using, or whoever is using these practices to get another state of mind, they are not using this practice in their highest form. The purification of the mind, the highest form of this practice, is to recollect God and to help in weakening this me tendencies, poking hole into this me tendency. Now, of course, there is a tendency to take any practice and turn it into a religion, turn it into a ritual. But that's not what the import of the practice is. It's not about creating a new persona, but it is about the revelation of truth. So if you are coming from an intention to attain another state, you're still coming from a personal intention. But if your intention is the revelation of truth, then you are coming from your love for truth, from your passion for truth. So your intention is very important. Okay, Randa. Randa, you're right. The well-being of the person, the wanting to make sure that the action figure, the person, is not harmed, seems to be innate. How do you change that? Well, at the organismic level, at the let's say body-mind level, there are conditions that are already set. These conditions are various. There are many conditions. conditions such as gravity, conditions such as galaxies, space, the elements, the weather. There are forms and relationships that are already established in the manifest world. And at the body-mind level, there is an instinct for survival, which is the food, shelter, and clothing concern, and the procreation of the species. You find that from the amoeba all the way to the most complex organisms. So that condition is let's say, a biophysical condition that has no personal identification in it. A plant, a seed, requires moisture, warmth, some nutrients in the ground, a certain fertility of the ground to sprout, to germinate, and to grow into whatever it's destined to grow in, depending on what the seed is. If it's an oak seed, acorn seed, it will grow into an acorn tree, or if it's a corn seed, it will grow into a corn husk, etc. So these are conditions which have to do with the quote unquote well-being of the species does not have any identification in it. But when it comes to what you refer to in your question as the person, when we speak of a person, we are speaking of a certain mentation. We're speaking of mind identification, a mind identification, meaning a thought that we have accepted, that the thought being that I am this body mind, or I am a body mind, or I am a certain form, that this form is what I am, and that's what we refer to as the person. It's a thought identification and a feeling identification. And as soon as there is that identification, as soon as there is the identification, there is the concern. The concern is about my ending, the ending of the me, the person, which is quite different from the survival of the organism, because the organism also has survival instinct in it. A deer that is chased by a lion is going to run as fast as it can. When you get close to the fire, or when a child gets close to the fire, feels the heat of the fire, they get back as quickly as they can, so they don't get burned, so the body doesn't get burned. And that is quite different from believing yourself to be a person and being concerned about your well-being as a person, meaning a character in time and space. So so the well-being of the person, the wanting to make sure that the person is not harmed, is not innate. It is not innate. It is an add-on. And your question is, how do you change that? You need to come to the clarity in your own contemplation that being a person is an add-on. The concern of a person that the person has about their life, their future, money, their wealth, their health, their home, their position. These concerns are thoughts that arise to you once you believe yourself to be a mortal body mind. It is learned. A baby does not have this innate identification. But quickly, soon enough, they are indoctrinated to believe that they are a body mind. And depending on what is their refinement in their understanding and their spiritual maturity, they will go deeply into this identification, or there are various degrees of depth of the identification. And when you are deeply in the identification, you've got a long way to go to free yourself from this identification. And if the depth of your identification has a lot of holes in it, a lot of doubts in it, you will find yourself questioning, what is the meaning of that? What is the meaning of life? What is this meaning that I am a person? What is the meaning of mortality? You will start questioning these these thoughts and these beliefs. So the way you change, this identification is by contemplating, what am I truly? When you contemplate, what am I truly, you are contemplating the truth. And if your contemplation is correct, it will lead you to the understanding, to the living understanding, that you are not any form, that you're not a body mind, that you're not an object, that you're not a man or a woman, and that you are this aware presence, that you are consciousness, that you are this innate freedom and vastness of being. You will come to the living understanding that you are the formless self and not the form that appears. Once you come to this understanding, the hold of the personal self has been mortally wounded. It may take a while to breathe its last breath, but it is on its way out. So the contemplation is not, how can I have a better life? How can I have a better experience? How can I have a better enlightenment? The contemplation is, what is the reality of being? What am I truly? What is it that is real in my experience? What is my experience? What is the reality? There is obviously a reality. This very moment, what is it? You ask yourself this question, and this question will lead you to the self. You have to pose this question out of your deep interest, and not just sort of repeat some question that you've heard that you think it's a good question, but it has to resonate. To what is it right now that is? What is the reality of being in this moment? You will come to the aware presence. Awareness is real. The reality of awareness. The reality of awareness dissolves the illusion of the person and the concern of the person to free itself from imagined harm. You have never really been a person. You are not really a person. There is no real harm. I understand that these words may sound beyond some folks' understanding, but maybe not. Maybe you can come to the understanding that what you are is not what you think you are. But what you are is not something that gets hurt. That the true you is beyond that world of contradiction and chaos and thought and images. Randa, you write, sometimes there is a remembrance and most time it is a forgetting. Well, when there is a remembrance of the reality of being, and it's an experiential remembrance, it's very beautiful, because in the moment of remembrance, you can sort of fall into this remembrance and become this remembrance of presence. And when there is a forgetting of presence, forgetting of the vastness of being, there is an identification as a person, me, what's happening to me, self-judgment, judging the other. When this forgetting arises, there is an unhappiness. We can feel an unhappiness. And this unhappiness is sort of a waking call for us. It awakens us to the understanding that we are in the wrong direction. We're moving in the wrong direction, which is the direction of unhappiness. And always the direction of unhappiness is the direction of I am a me and you're a you. I'm a me and he's a he, she's a she, and she did this and he did that, or why did this happen to me? And there's an understanding that the forgetting of our wholeness of being means an identification as a person. And the unhappiness is the canary in the mine. It reminds us to notice that there is that old habitual belief and tendency to get into the me structure. And the way the me structure is maintained is that we continue with the judgments, and we continue with the stories, and we continue with the self-justification or self-blame. And that maintains the unhappiness, and even it elevates the temperature of the unhappiness. So when we stop, you say, no, that is not what I am. This is just stories, old stories. I've seen them before, I've heard them before, witnessed them before. And there is nothing in them, nothing happy, nothing beautiful, nothing lovely in them, nothing lovely in them, nothing. You just want to be right, be correct, or whatever the pattern is. There's nothing happy in it. So why maintain it? Say no. That is not the way. It's not the way. Then we stop. We simply cease to follow these imaginary stories, because they're images. And when you stop feeding the images, then you find yourself in the ground of being. You find yourself as the ground of being, as the peace, as the tranquility, because your true nature is happiness and peace. You don't need to be happy. You just need to stop being unhappy. Stop feeding the patterns, the me thoughts and the me beliefs that are unhappy. You have to come to that understanding that within yourself that that's the cause of the unhappiness. It's believing you're me. You don't need to even contemplate that. It's sufficient. It may be sufficient to just stay away from the unhappiness. And you don't need to seek happiness, because if you are seeking happiness, seeking is not happy. Seeking means you are missing something, or you're lacking something, or you lost something. So that in itself is not happy. Happiness is being, pure being. It's our true nature. Hello, Barbara. Why do we cling? Why do we cling to the me narratives that are making us unhappy? It's a good question. It's a good question to ask ourselves. Because most often we don't ask ourselves that question. We just automatically just continue. It's a good question. Why? And let's say we get an answer. Okay, because, I don't know, God made us like this, or because my grandmother made me like this, or because of society, or because of my karma. Or what does it matter? Once you get an answer why, it doesn't really, it's just still mind. But the fact is that the me narrative is unhappy, and it's not necessary. Unhappiness is not necessary, because we love happiness, but we have to trust happiness, because that's what we love. It makes sense to trust what we love, and to honor what we love, and to celebrate what we love. And what we love is happiness. Just to understand that deeply, and to live according to this understanding. Because unhappiness arises in our life. Say, oh, it's because of my sister, or my brother, or my mother, or my boss. But that's just a story. We say it's because of my boss, because we just want to deflect. We want to, if I say, oh no, the happiness is not here, the unhappiness is not here, it's out there. If only I could get rid of my boss. Well, good luck. Or if I could change my mother or my father, well, good luck. Or change myself, good luck. So these thoughts about the problem is somewhere in the world, or the problem is with me, are just stories. The core issue is the identification that I am Magdi, I am born, I am a man, a woman, I'm a person. While in fact our experience speaks loud and clear that I am consciousness. I am that open space, the effortless openness of being. So the me narratives continue to turn like the wheel of samsara, as long as we haven't realized the stillness of being at the core of the wheel. The hub of the wheel is the stillness of being, our true self, our true nature. So the narrative continues. We could say because our contemplation is hasn't yet taken us home. Our contemplation is still taking us in the world, saying, "Oh, I'm unhappy because I don't have a larger house, or I don't live by the beach, or I, I don't have a good retirement, or I don't have a good partner, or it's too much, whatever, too much something in my life. I need to get rid of it." So our contemplation is still running away from the source. We're still interested in rearranging the world events, the body-mind events. And the me remains. The me belief is still there. And of course, the me feeling is still there, very strong. So the me narrative remains on deck as long as our contemplation is still clinging to images, clinging to experiences, clinging to some story, clinging to me in time, an idea of me in time. We need to remember what you truly love. And it's not the world, body, mind you love. It is consciousness that you love. the causeless peace and happiness, the freedom of being that you are. Yeah, you say it's week of powerful narratives of world problems. Yes, we like it to find the problems out there in the world. It gives us something to do, something as a person to do. Need to fix the problems or run away from the problems or talk about the problems or think about the problems or analyze them, judge them. It gives us as a person something to do. That's a person actually. The person is all these thoughts and conversations. It's this impression of a personal center with an external world, happy world, unhappy world problems, world situations. That's all stories and tales. You can discuss the world problems and analyze the world problems, and there will always be some world problem ad infinitum. We can meet again in the year 8,250, and we'll still be talking about world problems. But the real conversation, the real contemplation is not the world problems, is the reality of the self. What we truly love, what we truly yearn for. Satchitananda, the bliss of the self, the revelation of that is untouched, unborn. The reality of being. Hello, Steve. I have muted you. Hello, nice to see you. I have muted you because of the background sound. But if you have any question, anything to say, then you can unmute yourself or just write your comments. So, okay, Barbara, does that address your question? Okay. A lot of people write about the chaotic times, today's chaotic times. It amuses us. I mean, we love the news. It's a big seller, the news. And also People magazine and all these, they're very good amusement because I love the stories, me and her, all these stories, me and him. Anyways. Any questions? Okay, well, I just want to mention, quite a few of you know that there will be a retreat in Costa Rica in March. I think it is March. I forget the dates, but it's posted on my meetup page and it's posted on my Facebook page. You are welcome to join it. It's food and lodging is $450. You just make sure Teresa is muted, and otherwise we'll see you next week on this meeting. Thank you very much for your lovely company. Okay, yes, see you, Lee. See you, everybody. Randa and Richard and Barbara and Steve. Nice to see you, Stephen. Teresa, be well. See you soon.